Glimpse of a fading moon in the dawning sky. Part 6. The girl led her down a long cobbled passageway, then through yet another set of gates into a smaller compound where the weaver's department was located. There, as Emeravwe continued to weep, she was dressed in the cap-sleeve blouse, skirt, and matching sheer robe and headscarf that were the standard of all palace maidens. The attire was light green in color, like that of the Omote, the wide band of the headscarf arranged so it covered her forehead and the ruby embedded in it. Thus clothed, Emeravwe and the girl returned to the maiden's compound. They reported to Eunuch, who instructed her to join the other Omote in cleaning the rooms of the buildings. Emeravwe tried to do as the Eunuch asked, but she was confused and frightened by all that had happened, and her head felt ready to split from pain. "Move," some Omote commanded, ramming a bin they were pushing against the back of her legs as she stood nursing her headache in one of the halls. She was slammed to her knees, and the girls maneuvered the bin around her, laughing. "If you are sent to work in the palace though you have a gem in your forehead, are you still a valued child?" one of the Omote wanted to know as they walked away. "No, you would be a worthless child," another proclaimed, and they burst in laughter. Emeravwe sat weeping in the hall, but soon other girls came to roughly shove her aside, and the older Eunuch berated her for crying instead of working. "You valued children are good for nothing but sitting at home, licking your faces and stuffing biscuits," and Eunuch bit bitterly, brushing Emeravwe aside. She found her corner to make herself invisible and cried herself to sleep despite her headache. Later that evening, she was roughly woken by an Omote and told to assemble on the patio to greet the Aye as they returned. The girls assembled on the patios of the building, a triplet of younger girls lying beside each of the older girls. They greeted the Aye in charge of that building as they walked up the steps, each escorted by a triplet of girls in pink. The senior Aye in charge of Emeravwe's building was called Aye Omote. She was a woman with a round face and kind brown eyes. "Oh, and who was this?" she said, immediately noticing Emeravwe, since she was the only child not lying beside an older girl. Eunuch stepped forward. "Ayeme, her name is Emeravwe. The Rodea sent her to be an Omote in training." "I see." Aye Omote walked over to Emeravwe, who shrank fearfully against the wall of the building. The Aye smiled warmly, placing a gentle hand on her head. "Welcome, child." She turned to Eunuch, asking, "And what clan is she from?" Eunuch bowed her head. "May you forgive me, Ayeme, I do not know." At this, Aye Omote paused. She glanced briefly at Emeravwe, then addressed another girl in pink. "Eunuch, you only have 2 Omote in your charge. I shall leave her in your care as well." "Yes, Ayeme," the Eunuch answered. That evening, Emeravwe shared a room with Eunuch and the 2 Omote assigned to her. "Why do we have to be the ones she is assigned with?" one of the Omote grumbled as she and the others spread out a sheet on the large cot in the room. "If we are together all the time, the other girls will not want to play with us either." The 2 Omote shot Emeravwe vicious glares. She whimpered in the corner of the room, tears streaming from her eyes. "Do we really have to share our bed with her?" the other Omote complained, turning to Eunuch. The Eunuch lay leisurely on the small cot, reading a book by the light of a candle. "Just leave her where she is," she said without looking up. Emeravwe's whimpering sobs permeated the small room. The Eunuch's brow creased in annoyance. "And shut her up!" The 2 Omote grinned. They found a cloth and shoved it in Emeravwe's mouth, then left her to sleep in the corner of the room as her head pounded with pain, her body trembling with a rising fever. Thank you for joining me for this reading. If you enjoyed the story so far, become a supporter by joining me on Patreon. You can gain early access to each new audio chapter, as well as get written chapters to read along. You can find me at patreon.com/oroje. Also, be sure to press the subscribe button for more content from this channel. See you at the next chapter.